Officials in Ghana say the government has wrapped up its International Monetary Fund bailout program, ending a $3 billion emergency support package. Accra says it economic stability and debt sustainability ahead of schedule. Ghana's presidency says inflation has reduced significantly, the currency has strengthened and public debt has declined sharply. In December, President John Dramani Mahama announced the country would gradually exit the IMF program thanks to reforms undertaken since 2024. The IMF says Ghana's program delivered substantial stabilization gains, including improved reserves, stronger fiscal performance, and progress in restructuring public debt. It warned, however, that maintaining the reform momentum was critical to sustaining growth. Ghana will now transition to an IMF policy coordination instrument, which supports reforms and signals policy credibility to investors without providing direct funding.
All right. Welcome to This Week in Ghana, your bi-weekly live stream where we talk about all things Ghana news and the things happening on the ground in the country. As you saw, Ghana has exited the $3 billion IMF program, so we'll be speaking about that. There are also some other stories as well. We'll be talking about BlacVolta's X account being suspended after old tweets resurface. Influencer SoAfrican arrested over alleged SA, and there's a reparations event in the month of June. So before we get into today's stories, we'll start off with some introductions. I will turn it over to our co-host before I introduce myself.
Hello, I'm Ivy Prosper, and I am a YouTube creator. I am a producer, and I am an author of the book, Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana, as well as I have my company, Prosper Creative Group, and I am also curating tours for people who are coming to Ghana, private tours that I'm curating. So all the information I will link in the video description after our live stream is over. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. And apologies for the delay, everyone. I am the reason for the delay. So we are very late today, but those of you who are joining us, we appreciate you joining us. Yes, hello to you all. So I'm Joe Hatagwa. I'm the founder of Authentic African Media. We help people visit, move, and invest on the continent of Africa. We try to bridge the gap between those living in the diaspora and those living on the continent by making introductions and sharing information about those who have made those successful transitions business-wise and or traveling and helping others travel as well. We also do these live streams weekly. So I do the Thursday live stream where we're talking about the news in general. We do these bi-weekly with Ivy, and also on a semi-regular basis, we do live streams on Sierra Leone because that's my country of origin, and that is where I am today. So with that, we will get into today's stories. So the first of which, as you saw, is Ghana has exited the IMF program. It is 10:52 p.m. here, just so you all are aware. So Ghana has completed the latest IMF-supported program after implementing key reforms aimed at stabilizing the economy, including tighter spending controls, revenue improvements, and debt restructuring. So while the exit signals progress in restoring economic confidence, there are concerns about the long-term sustainability due to challenges like debt pressures, energy sector inefficiencies, revenue leakages, etc. So we will hear a little bit from the folks at Joy News on this story, and we'll have some commentary on the other side.
There's no audio.
Oh, the audio is not playing. You guys can't hear it.
No.
Okay, terrible. Can the audience hear it? Just let me know if you guys can hear it. I know that Ivy cannot. If let me know if the audience can. If you guys cannot, then I will. Okay, so the audience cannot either. It should be your browser lost connection to your screen share audio. Trying sharing your screen again, it says. Okay, it says try sharing my screen again. I will attempt to do it again. I did get a notification here from our friends at StreamYard. So this was the end of one of many, just so we know, just for context, this was not a one-off program. But in any case, let me know if you guys can hear it now. We'll try this again.
And this is beyond a number. We've got a lot of analysis for you here on the show, on the IMF program. We've exited our 17 IMF program, but the biggest question on everybody's mind is how soon could Ghana return to the IMF for its 18th bailout package? That is why today we are having a special analysis for you, taking you through all the key developments of this 17th IMF program, how far we have come, and the questions being raised. What is the data saying? What has been the position of the central bank when it comes to the privatization of ECG, recapitalization of Bank of Ghana? What is the status at the moment? If you look at our...
All right, it's a very detailed explanation. I think that video is going to go very deep, and it's very, very long. But I think that the main thing to see here is the ability to be able to get out of this program. I think we've spoken on a number of occasions about the current administration, being able to cancel specific debt. In fact, there was an energy debt that they were able to pay off. It looks in like one fell swoop. Obviously, the currency has been performing at levels that you hadn't seen in a while. So there's some reforms and some progress that we're seeing in country. But yeah, so Ivy, your thoughts on the being able to finish, basically getting out of this program and looking like there's a potential to restructure this so it's not another bailout, but maybe a potential different type of deal moving forward. And from what I heard, I thought I heard 17th or 18th different package. And so, yeah, what are your thoughts, Ivy?
I mean, Ghana's in severe debt still with to the IMF. So they're exiting a program, which means the program that they're exiting, that it means that they are not going to take out another bailout loan. They're simply restructuring what already exists. And I think that it's going to take a lot of discipline paying off what the debts that are still there. So although they're calling it an exit, I think it's the thing about news and headlines is that it can be misleading because the way that the stories are being headlined, because a lot of people only read headlines and don't read full stories in detail. So people will start thinking Ghana no longer has any IMF ties when they say Ghana's exiting, when it's like a restructuring from the current, program they have to a different type of program where they're not going to take bailouts. So I think it's a step in the right direction to be working towards not taking another bailout and just kind of restructuring in a way that they can pay off the debt that they do have. So I do think it's a step in the right direction. So let's see what happens going forward as to how long it will take for them to pay it off. Because I think they're calling it a transition to a policy coordination instrument is the name of the program, which means that they're not going to take on any new IMF loans, and they're going to be continued to be monitored by the IMF.
Yeah, and I'll say, look, one of the things that I think we find as challenges in many of the countries on the continent, and obviously we're speaking about specifically Ghana here, is the amount of debt that our countries take on, right? And
yeah.
One of the things that I've heard on so many occasions, and I think this was somebody from the IMF, is that they mentioned that African politicians don't negotiate as much as other people from around the world. So whether that's a debt restructuring deal where there's a you know, there's a percentage due back in, you know, when the you know, when you get debt, the percentage above the debt that you're supposed to pay for whatever reason, my brain is not the interest, right? This is 11 p.m. brain. So the interest due on that debt, one of the things that I hear many times is that many African politicians do not do a good job of negotiating those interest rates, right? Those interest rates do not need to be static, right? Then the number given is a starting point. Or when it comes to any other types of deals that are happening. And I think many times that's because those who are doing those deals are excited because there's a lot of revenue going to them personally, right? And so when you get into situations where you've had 17 or whatever the number was, different numbers of bailouts, I'm optimistic to see that this at least is restructuring of a long pattern of need for bailouts, and all the conditions in which that were described, I think bodes well for Ghana moving forward, right? Because of the idea that Ghana has basically done a number of different things to basically not need to qualify for another bailout. So in any case, we'll continue to follow this. I mean, this is an encouraging step in the right direction, although a small step. It is an important one. And to your point, it does not eliminate any debt. It does not mean that it doesn't eliminate all debt, and it doesn't mean that they're not in another IMF program. It's just the program shifts and changes from a bailout to this policy that you had mentioned. So with that, we will get into the next story, and that is with BlacVolta. So you know, this one is one of those stories that I think was it was viral news within country and within the Ghanaian diaspora. I was sent a few things on this story. Obviously, Ivy, you and I, you know, you shared this with me again today as well, and this is a very popular page on social media and personality behind it. I will actually just allow them to speak to what happened because their account was suspended on X, but I'll allow BlacVolta's page to speak. Well, I'll allow someone to speak to it. Actually, sorry, this is not BlacVolta, but Yo Charlie is going to speak to this, and we will have some commentary on the other side. Let's see here.
The situation that we have on BlacVolta. Now, the issue on ground is old tweets, old posts he made on X are now resurfacing. Now, the situation started when the story on SoAfrican. BlacVolta now put out a statement. In this statement, he said, official statement, BlacVolta was founded in 2021 as a media, lifestyle, and community platform with a simple and ambitious vision. Now, there's a part of his whole statement that two people, he now went on to say, over the years, I have grown personally and professionally. Moving forward, he said, I will take the initiative to personally engage with organizations in Ghana, focus on raising awareness of gender-based violence, women empowerment, and the importance of our digital footprint. Nana Ba, for one, then said, the worst part of your statement is, moving forward, I will take the initiative to personally engage with organizations in Ghana, focus on raising awareness of gender-based violence, women empowerment, and the importance of digital footprint. She said, no, you wouldn't do that. You don't have what it takes to speak on behalf of any woman or child.
Okay, so I want to stop it there, but basically the story is quite a there were a lot of posts that basically because of YouTube's policies, I can't put on screen what was said on X, and that's why you even see in this it was a quick screenshot, but basically it joked about simulating SA. I think that's the best way I can describe it. And SA on women, and then further joked about deflowering or could be deflowering someone, and it was just in very, very poor taste. I can't even. That's saying it charitably, and so these tweets have resurfaced, and the account was suspended recently because of those tweets at that point in time. Of course, you know, there's been an apology, of course, by the person who runs the BlacVolta page. But Ivy, your thoughts on this, because, you know, obviously I've been following the BlacVolta page for a while, probably since 2021 when I moved to Ghana, because there was always insights into what's happening on ground, events, etc. And it is sad to see that this past was there and it has resurfaced in this way. But your thoughts?
I think that this is an example of there are men out there who have these kinds of thoughts. And some will act upon them, and a lot of them joke about it. And men who, over the last few weeks, there have been a lot of things surfacing that men have been doing. Some men have been doing. I'm not going to say all men. Some men have been doing. For example, you know, there was some people who were found to be. I'm trying to, because I know I don't want to say things that, as you said, YouTube policies, you don't want things to affect your channel. But there were some men who were arrested for, or for charged for allegedly drugging their spouses and doing things to them without their consent and recording them. And that was happening not in Ghana. This one I'm talking about is outside of Ghana, but it's an example of men enabling each other in some of the things that they do when it comes to the treatment of women and girls. And so his name Joey, who's the head of the BlacVolta, the tweets he made were from quite some time ago that were found, and people took screenshots and had posted them, where he was joking about doing things to women without their consent, joked about laws, changing laws that criminalize men for doing these things to women, joking that they should be changed to favor the men who want to do these things. I'm paraphrasing how it was said in the tweets, but it's an example of how sometimes there's people who get into positions of power. Some people are calling him and the other guy who was arrested this week, who we're going to talk about as well. People are calling him the Ghana Diddy, and I'm like, you know, they're taking it to a bit of an extreme, but it's an example of men who are in high positions of power, who use their power to take advantage of situations. Sometimes they think they can get away with it, you know, and I think that a lot of men think they can get away with some of these things because their fellow men allow them to and enable them to, because sometimes guys make these kinds of jokes and nobody checks them for it. They say these things and their friends are there. Their friends will laugh about it. They think it's a joke, but it's not a joke, some of these things that they say. So for me, I think that it does need to be further investigated. I mean, the evidence is there in all the tweets, so I don't know how much more investigation needs to be done, but it's definitely affected his brand. And of course, there are people now. There was somebody I was in a debate with on Instagram today, who all he could think about was, he said, this is going to ruin nightlife in Ghana. And I'm like, that's your only concern, is ruining nightlife in Ghana, when there's a man who has said some things that are quite offensive to women? And he was like, he didn't care. He only cares about the fact that he thinks that nightlife now is going to be ruined in Ghana because the BlacVolta page has become a pillar when it comes to nightlife information in Ghana over the last few years. So that guy making the comments that he he said he didn't really think it was necessary for him to say anything to appease the girls and women who this affects. He only cares about nightlife in Ghana. And so that was an example of, this is the kind of guy who probably would laugh at the things that were said, think it's no big deal, and just brush it off like it's nothing. I think that there's quite a few guys out there like that who really don't care. And it's very sad, because some of these guys, some of them have daughters, but yet they speak about women in these ways. And it's like, would you want someone to speak that way about your daughter? If you don't have a daughter, your sister, your mother, your aunt, like, would you want men to be saying these things about your family members, your female family members? So it's what it's done is brought to light the reality of the underbelly of some of the things that are in society, that it's not only abroad, because sometimes Ghanaians like to think that they're in a bubble and things don't happen in Ghana. And it's like, these kinds of things, it happens everywhere, you know, and it's an unfortunate situation. And I'm glad that it's come to light, because now the conversations are happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, to add to that, I would say, one, you know, there's some nuance here, because it was words, but the question is, did he ever act on it? Right. And I think that that's the part that I think that has that concern, right? Because if you're willing to say something like this publicly, what we've seen and what we've found is that people who say these things publicly tend to do some of these things personally. I am not saying that that is what's happened here, but what I'm saying is that that's why there's such a concern. It's not even just that people were hurt by it. I think it's that people are concerned that there's a possibility that people were actually hurt by actions that might have happened behind the scenes. As someone who grew up with kids who have been through all kinds of crazy trauma in their lives, I knew kids who talk like this in high school, you know, even after they graduated from high school. And there was always the wonder, like, do you act on these things or do you just say these things, right? And, you know, to the next story we're going to talk about with, you know, influencer, you know, SoAfrican, apparently they had a connection. They knew each other from the nightlife world, and
yes, so they know each other very well.
Know each other pretty well. And so, you know, I think that transitions well to the next story, because the connection between the two is partly how this came out. But before we get into the next story, I do want to say this. People don't know this, but maybe you do know this. Anything that's ever been on the internet, except for maybe videos, and even videos can be found, depending on if police want to get a subpoena of the platform, can be found on a thing called the Wayback Machine. And this is how all people's tweets get found, right? When somebody's getting canceled for tweets that they wrote 10 years ago, there's a thing called the Wayback Machine, and that's the internet archive that I think the government of the United States has set up, in fact. I'm not 100% sure, but the internet archive is set up so that anything that's ever been, any website that's ever been made, and this is how people get caught, where they make up credentials for themselves on their websites, and then they get called out for it, and then they remove it, but then you can go back and find it. That's how people are finding this stuff. It's not like people were screenshotting this back then. They're going and finding it and screenshotting it now. It's a technology that gets used all the time for these particular instances. So number one, watch what you say online. But if you really believe that, then say it out loud so we know who you are. But, you know, two, just know that that's how this stuff comes to be. Now, to associations, you know, and I'm not too aware of the relationship between the two, but SoAfrican was an influencer, or is an influencer, who was recently arrested for allegedly recording without consent of, you know, young ladies, and also drugging them with Xanax and other things. And so we're going to play this story, and I think that this is the connection between BlacVolta and SoAfrican, right? The question is, could he potentially have participated in these kind of activities if he said those kinds of things that he said in his past, right? That is why this is, the two stories have been linked, right? So we'll play this story on this arrest, and then we'll have some commentary on the other side. Let me press play.
This guy, look at his lifestyle and the lifestyle of some of his siblings and his people. You would know that this guy is from money. So what went wrong? Now he's been arrested for sharing explicit images of young ladies without their consent. He creates a Telegram group called VIP Sleep Fetish, where inside he put together women that he has slept with from the ending of the 2025 day. He has put images together and videos together of these people and shares it on a private Telegram channel for people to watch. And I don't know, once there is some VIP there, I feel like they pay for it. I'm just saying. He used certain drugs. There are two drugs involved. He used aprazolam. So I did a check on aprazolam to know exactly what drug is aprazolam. Now, this is aprazolam. Small tablets like that. Aprazolam, commonly known by the brand name Xanax, is a fast-acting benzodiazepine used to treat anxiety disorders, panic disorders, and anxiety associated with depression. It works by enhancing neurotransmitters in the brain to produce a calming effect.
Neurotransmitters, by the way, neurotransmitters.
The side effects are drowsiness, fatigue, memory problems, lightheadedness, and difficulty with coordination. So these are some of the reasons why this particular drug, your mind use them. Full video on.
Okay. So as you saw there was as mentioned, using Xanax and other drugs to drug people allegedly, film them without their consent, putting them on Telegram. And this, by the way, is why Telegram's offices were raided by the French about a year ago. Telegram is a platform, people aren't aware, Telegram is a platform that is encrypted, right? It's meant to be encrypted. These groups cannot be seen by public. You can invite people to these groups, but they don't have to be seen and cannot be seen by the public. And Telegram refuses to allow police to do subpoenas on them to go in and extract names, etc., from these different groups. And on Telegram, the Russian guy who was in Africa, if you guys might remember, wearing the glasses that had the cameras in them, he was recording and putting them in his Telegram groups. And then you can have paid tiers of Telegram groups as well. So he was sharing these videos on Telegram. There are groups apparently that have people under the age of 18 in these groups. I'm just trying to figure out how to communicate this without, YouTube having issues with it. And so these are things that happen on Telegram frequently, by the way. And it's a known thing, especially by people who are into this kind of stuff. They go into Telegram to do this. And this has been, and like I said, the French raided Telegram. I don't think they're even allowed to operate in France anymore. And I wish other countries would take harsher punishments towards Telegram, because they should be responsible for what's happening on their platform. So with that being said, just to give everybody that context, Ivy, your thoughts on this particular story and, how it connects to, the BlacVolta story that we just discussed. Oh, I think you're on mute. Ivy, I think you're on mute. Ivy, you're on mute.
I had put myself on mute. I forgot.
No worries, no worries.
I think that because I had put the air conditioning on, it was a little bit loud. I think that the male ego is a big part of these kinds of things happening. It's like men are always trying to prove themselves when it comes to women. But then it's a really sinister thing to feel that you have to make someone, people get people drunk, get them high, whatever it is that you're doing, so that they can't even have the ability to consent, to say no, to say yes. And then you just proceed to do what you want to do, record it, and then show it to another group of men as part of their fetish. And then they probably are paying for it too. It's disgusting, really. And again, I go back to saying, would you want someone to do this to your daughter, to your sister, to your aunt, to your mom, to your grandmother, like the women in your life? Do you want them to have this kind of treatment as well? How can you feel okay doing this to women, knowing that these women are they're someone's daughter, they're someone's mom, someone's sister, someone's aunt, and this is what you're treating them like. I think it's disgusting and unconscionable. And, they say that they found a hard drive that has content on it. So, if they have evidence, they should charge him. He should be jailed, based on the evidence that they find. I don't know if they're doing a trial or what's happening right now with the investigation, but I'm glad to see that Ghana's criminal investigation unit is doing their work. It's good to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of a different take. I mean, it's just in terms of, I would add to that. I would actually say is that I think this is a sickness, right? Because of the style of what he was doing. Because I'm not a person that generally kink shames, as long as it's not unethical, it was not immoral, and it's not illegal, right? And what he was doing is all three, right? I think, consent matters 100%. And what we're talking about here is not giving people the opportunity to make a decision to be a part of what you're doing, right? That you can't somebody without them even knowing or not having the ability to make that decision. And then on top of all of that, not even for your own personal pleasure, but then for others, then potentially be monetizing it as well. I think it's just like layers of wrong on so many different levels. And then to your point, yes, the cyber investigations unit. I remember there was there's been some recent stories about credit card scammers, romance scammers. The crackdown has been pretty significant, and they've been really good at what they've done in terms of catching these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to see that they have figured out how to start to catch these folks, and I've started this process. Who knows how much more there is out there, right? There are a lot of underground things that are hard to find, especially when you have something like Telegram and you have an uncooperative platform. I'm not a person who believes in backdoors of encryption services, but I do believe that with a warrant and a justified warrant, these things have to be made available to law enforcement for specific reasons like this. When you have, who knows, an untold number of victims, it's important that these things do get, they're able to investigate and are able to be able to stop this from continuing to harm more people. There was a question on if both men were Ghanaian in this story and in the last one. And I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, right? Both of them they're both Ghanaian. Yeah, so they're both Ghanaian. And so, and one of the things that I will say is that, stereotypically, Ghanaians are not known for these kinds of behaviors, right? When you talk about these kinds of behaviors, it's generally from other potential countries. And so seeing something like this, I think might be shocking to some folks. But every society has, these kinds of people. There's there's always a percentage of every society that has the worst kinds of people in them. And so I don't think this is indicative of Ghanaian men as a whole, but I think it just shows you that no matter where you are in the world, there are these kinds of people, including in Ghana. So I think it's just important for people to take that perspective as well, to just understand that and to know that. But I mean, I was a little bit shocked, I'm not gonna lie, when I heard about this. I guess I wouldn't say shocked, I was a little bit surprised, considering how it was being done, right? The way this was being perpetuated. I just thought, you know, in today's day and age, you would think if somebody was into this kind of stuff, they wouldn't do it like this. But I'm just glad they got caught. I'll put it that way. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they got caught. So yeah, it's unfortunately these stories had to be talked about today, you know, because they're both in the news very prevalently in Ghana and around other parts of West Africa, right? People are reporting on this. And so it was important that we brought it to you all and gave you the opportunity to hear it and to give your comments and thoughts about it. So yeah, to a more brighter note, because that was dark. You know, and I hope these guys are brought to justice, right? And the victims get some kind of reprieve for this. So I do want to just end with that. Next, I want to mention that there is a reparations event called the Next Steps Ghana, high-level consultative conference on the next steps to the landmark UN resolution on the trafficking of enslaved Africans. Let me actually put that up on the screen for you guys to see. It's translating the landmark UN resolution on the trafficking of enslaved Africans into common framework of actionable commitments for just and equitable world order. So there'll be 3 days, and it ends on Juneteenth in Osu. There's a technical meeting on June 17th. There's a high-level meeting on June 18th, and then on Juneteenth, there's another Juneteenth meeting. So there's commentary from the president. Reparatory justice will not be handed to us. Like political independence, it must be asserted, pursued, and secured through determination and unity. And so one of the questions that people had been asking is, if we're going to make these resolutions at the African Union and then at the United Nations, what's next? So I can appreciate that there's a discussion and programs around what is expected to be next, right? So this is a kind of the overview, right, of the March 25th ruling. There's going to be 3 days of deliberation and declaration and deliverables. So technical meetings, formulation of global post-adoption framework, build a virtual consultations on conference outcomes. On the 18th, there's going to be an establishment of 3 global panels and a consultative forum. Heads of states, foreign ministers, invited dignitaries, experts, and activists convene. So people who can make change and those who are pushing for change will be meeting. High-level expert segment, endorsement of global post-adoption framework. I think it's important to have a framework to work from. An adoption of the conference outcome document, and then there's actually some tours and some dinners and things of that happening on Juneteenth. So there's a list of what it aims to achieve: collective reflection and dialogue, global post-adoption framework, conference report, the 3 global panels, and annual consultative forum. So this isn't just a one-off thing. The expectation is that it's going to be annual. The 3 international bodies will be involved, and that's listed here. The 3 different locations are here. So it'll happen at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Kapitsky Hotel, and then the Christiansburg Castle as well. And here's who's going to attend, right? International organizations, legislative and civil society, experts and academics, heads of state and government. Here's some pictures and details. Okay, so before I get into my thoughts, Ivy, your thoughts on this particular event coming out of the historic UN resolution just almost 2 months back.
I think that it's important to have a follow-up event. You know, the request was made, the request was approved, and so now what are the steps? What's the action? So I think it's good that there's going to be an event where they're going to talk about it and you know, lay out the foundation and some frameworks of how this actually could potentially be done, or what they're presenting and who they're presenting it to. Are they presenting it to all the countries who participated in the slave trade, or are they only selecting certain countries? So it's good that they're working on a framework.
Yeah, absolutely. And agreed. Like, I mean, so many times, right? There's a symbolic gesture that happens and nothing happens afterwards, right? And that's the biggest complaint I think many of us have about things that happen on the continent. And also then when there are these meetings, it's either activists or sometimes leaders. I haven't really seen too many times where there are leaders and activists coming together with a framework. I mean, there's already a goal to have a framework to work on and have things to work towards every year. I think that's the kind of thing that's important for this. I mean, there were a lot of critics about and to this event, especially because there was a deal made the same weekend as the announcement, right, with the EU and especially many of the EU members abstaining from voting on this UN resolution. So it is good to see that there are, you know, post frameworks, the different groups that will be together meeting to discuss what this looks like, what does reparative justice look like. You know, all of those things I think are really, really important. And I'm encouraged to see that. And it's not just one day, it's over 3 days. There are many different events happening. I think that's really important to create a platform to have a process to follow up on such a historic resolution at the United Nations. Okay, so with that, we are at time. It is 11:31 p.m. here on GMT. Ivy and I are in the same time zone, and it is late, but we wanted to make sure we got to you guys with some stories today. Thank you to all who joined. I know it was an hour and a half later, hour and 45 minutes later than we normally go live. So we appreciate you all for joining and contributing to the conversation. Any final words from you, Ivy, before we go?
No, nothing much to add, except thank you everybody for watching and for always putting your comments out there and being interested genuinely in learning about what's happening in Ghana. And, you know, because it helps you to stay informed, to know what's happening in the country, especially if you're planning on living in the country. So I appreciate you all for joining us today.
Absolutely. And I wish I was out partying. I see Jada's comment. I wish I was not. I was not out partying. I'm working East Coast hours, guys. So I'm working in the morning to shoot content, and in the evening, I am working my day job until 11 p.m. Fun times. So first world problems, though. I'm not complaining. Let me just say that. But anyway, just wanted to clarify that. But thank you guys for joining, and we will see you guys all back in a couple of weeks. Bye, guys.
Bye.